This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
It's time for another retro interview with a celebrity that is no longer with us. This time around, it's a chat I had back in August of 1995. This was a television icon who I spent my most formative years staring at and learning from as a young child. His name was Robert James Keeshan, but to millions of baby boomer kids like me, he was simply Captain Kangaroo. I had a chance to talk with Bob about his television career and the state of children's television at the turn of the century. Here is part of that conversation now.
Let's talk a little bit about your years in TV. You spent a lot of time on television entertaining generations of kids. Did you think when you first started, and I guess a lot of people are aware of the fact that you were originally Clarabelle the Clown, correct?
Correct.
Were you aware when you first started, did you think when you first started that you'd have such longevity with children, entertaining children, and educating children all those years in television?
Well, I think if I had expressed that view, I don't think I thought very much about it, but if I had and I came to that conclusion and expressed that view, I'd probably be institutionalized at this particular point because it would not have been a very sane prediction to make. And really, when one is working every day, 5 and 6 days a week on a television program and all the elements involved and all the people involved, you really don't start to think about what's happening next month or next year. You just simply are paying most of your attention to today and tomorrow and next week and next month.
Okay. Before we went on the air, when we set up the call, I have to admit to our audience, I gushed a little bit because I grew up watching Captain Kangaroo. Do you find when you go out in public, you come across 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, who even older, who still think of you as the captain and revert to their childhood when they meet you?
Well, I don't know whether they revert to their childhood, but what they are, of course, is a good deal more articulate than they were when they were experiencing the program, and they are able now to express, in retrospect, their views. They recall these experiences, and for most, they were very happy experiences, happy days. And for many, I've had the expression that their childhood was not particularly nice, that they were neglected or perhaps even abused or worse, and their home was not as happy as it should be, and that I constituted something of an oasis for them, a father-child relationship that they didn't have in real life. And it's very poignant when people express themselves that way, but I'm happy that I was able to do some positive work of that sort.
When the show first went on the air, it was the early days of television, and it was just a matter of putting things on TV to entertain the various age groups that were out there. Nowadays, when a television show goes on, there's so much thought process, even more thought process. There's focus groups and psychologists are involved. When you first started the Captain show, so many years ago, did you just do instinctively what you thought was good for children to watch on TV?
Well, I think in the very beginning it was very instinctive, and I think that's the key ingredient to any program that is successful. But of course, we all need help. I think people like Mr. Rogers is very instinctive. Bob Homey, the Friendly Giant, was very, very instinctive in the programming that he did. Mr. Dressup, very instinctive in the work that he did. But of course, we all do need help. And as time went on, we did avail ourselves of a lot of child professionals, and whether they were educators or psychologists or what, they would give us, in a sense, a seminar on the needs of children. And so over a period of 35 or 40 years, those of us working together have actually probably assembled a body of knowledge and learned more about early childhood education than we could ever learn at university level, and any one of us could write a paper tomorrow, of course. And that's all very important. What is important, of course, is to be able to use it effectively. It is nice to have the knowledge of child needs, but it's also very important that we have the talents to entertain the child as well as to educate the child, and not have the child be aware of that line, the difference between the two. They should not be aware that they're being educated or served in some way. They should feel that they're being entertained, and we hope that the stuff of entertainment is the stuff that meets the needs of children.
I noticed you mentioned a couple of the Canadian television shows that were on for years and years. Were you aware of the Canadian content that was out there entertaining children?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very well aware. I talked to Mr. Dressup just a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, and I know he's been just a staple for so many years, and I've always admired his work. And I think that you've been very fortunate in having some very talented people supplying good programming for children.
For all those people who grew up with your show and don't have to see on television anymore but may have kids of their own, are your shows available on video?
Yeah, we have shows that are available on home video. There are about 6 of them, and they're pretty good.
How many years was your show on the network on CBS?
On CBS, 30 years, and on public broadcasting for 7.
Was that difficult when CBS finally said that's it?
Oh no, that had been coming for a very long time. It was certainly not anything sudden. There's this syndrome at networks that they've got to compete head on with the same kind of programming that the other networks are programming at that particular time and that particular hour, and there's no common sense factor to it. It just it's insane. But when the chairman at CBS Broadcasting said, we want to be number one in the morning, I said, you are number one in the morning. You're serving families and children. And he said, no, I mean, I want to compete with the Today Show, and I want to compete with Good Morning America, and we're going to do it. Of course, that was 10 years ago, and they're still trying to catch up, and they still have not got the audience size that I had, if that's the game you want to play. But, it's very difficult to talk to show business executives. They're really a breed apart, and they don't have the same standards that the people, the families who are being served by television or not served by television. Those standards are quite different.
How do you feel about the television that's on for kids nowadays?
Well, I don't think that in the United States we've done anything that really we can be very proud of in the commercial sector. Certainly, our public broadcasting system does pretty well with Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street and Barney, that purple dinosaur that so many parents seem to be irritated by. But I often remind parents that the program was not made for them; it was made for children. And even though as a producer I might add more to it and make it a little more complex a program, it still is a benign program with good values. In the commercial sector, we have some very, very significant problems. We allow broadcasters and advertisers to exploit children, which is not done really anywhere else in the world, because most societies believe that children are their most precious asset and represent the future of their nation. So we in our early childhood programs outside of television, for example, in child care centers and in schools, we'll always say to children as early as 2 years of age, when you meet with controversy, use your words to solve problems. And then we think nothing as parents of turning them over to the Power Rangers, who are the good guys, no question about that, who are saying use your fists, and use karate and violence and other ways to solve problems. And that message is not lost on 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds. And I think that the cumulative effect of programs like that, solving problems with violence, is showing up in our society in rather disturbing ways.
Is the problem, in your estimation, the fact that there is a show like the Power Rangers on and it becomes successful, or because it becomes successful, it's copied? In other words, if there was one Power Ranger and there was a Captain Kangaroo and there was a Sesame Street, would that be a more broad base?
Well, it might be, but there'll always be Power Rangers, because the people who produce Power Rangers are not sitting down initially and saying, how may we nurture children? How may we help children? They're saying, how can we make a lot of money? And, whether it's Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers, and there'll be another one right following it, we're sure of that, we don't have the right attitude toward producing programming for children. And what really is important, but is the end user, if you will, is the parent. the parent who blithely says, well, I don't care what my kids are watching. Now, most parents would deny saying that, but whether they explicitly say, go watch television and it's violence, or they implicitly say, I'm tired, go watch television, and not supervise the programming that children watch, the result is the same. You know, it's a medium that seems to have escaped in the United States parental supervision. We would never think of sending our children out in the snow without the proper clothing, and we would never tell them go play in traffic, and we would never say, here's your lunch, 2 candy bars and a bottle of soda pop, because we know as parents that children have to have the proper diet to grow strong bodies. Well, children have to have the proper diet to grow strong minds. We think nothing of ignoring television, and it is a parental responsibility. The reason the Power Rangers are successful is because there are millions of parents who are allowing their children to watch unthinkingly or thinkingly, and therefore it perpetuates itself. So it's a parental responsibility. No matter what government in the United States or anywhere else does to enforce standards, children are going to be watching inappropriate television. Most children in America, when they're watching inappropriate television, are watching adult television. You know, the talk shows, the Oprahs and the Donahues, and they're watching Grandma and working in the strip joint, and they're watching cross-dressers and all kinds of material that certainly we would think is inappropriate for children to view. But parents simply don't seem to intervene in that program selection process that's critical.
For parents who do want to intervene, however, I noticed you did an infomercial recently?
Yeah, we did an infomercial, and the people never really, I think they were underfinanced or something of the sort, and it never really has gotten out onto the market. But it was a wonderful device, and it's the sort of device that the President of the United States spoke about, and the Majority Leader in the Senate, Senator Dole, spoke about just recently, the so-called Z chip. It's very similar. The devices are very similar. It would allow parents to block out certain channels, and with the one that is now available that I did the infomercial on, it would allow parents to block the television altogether for certain hours. So a parent could say to a child, now, I'm not going to be home until 5:30 or 5:45, but I know you'll be home at 3:15 or 3:30, and I don't want you sitting here watching television and eating potato chips and getting as fat as you can and watching programming that's not suitable for you. And the child will say, I won't, Mommy, but the flesh is weak, and they inevitably do. Well, one of these devices would permit the parent to simply block out the television in that period of time, so that the child would presumably then do homework or play with other children. So in absentia, the parent would be represented by this device.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I think parents, who are busy and who can't be there all the time, and, that's a fact of life. We can't, a lot of curmudgeons my age say, well, why doesn't Mommy get back in the kitchen and bake the chocolate chip cookies to meet the yellow school bus? Well, that's not going to happen, because the two-paycheck family is very important on the continent these days, and we're going to see working parents of both genders, and we've got to accommodate to that, and they've got to accommodate to a different family style, and but that means that every technical device of this nature that is a tool for parents can be very useful in exercising parental authority.
Okay. Well, I noticed you use the term curmudgeon. That's not one I would use in referring to you, and I still think you're an inspiration because you're still busy, you're still active, you're writing books, you're still looking to do more television, and I think that's great.
Well, it's the only way to live a life. We have to keep active.
Well, Bob Keeshan, thank you for talking with us.
Well, I appreciate your conversation. Thank you so much.
That was part of an interview with Bob Keeshan, a.k.a. Captain Kangaroo. Keeshan died in Windsor, Vermont on January 23, 2004. He was 76.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuph is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.